So all of you, the lovely people in the audience, are hypocrites. And I'm not saying this in order to offend you. No, 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 no. This is simply something we all were born with, have learned to live with. Yet the way this trait nowadays being exploited is really concerning. The number of times you try to be a good person and acted in a way you never would in order not to upset somebody is probably high. But the effect was most likely the opposite. I'm here to make you think of this regarding the group of people you keep meeting every day, the disabled. Now, what is a disability? Many say that this is just an impairment, lack of ability, skills, or straight up a problem. And they're right in terms of social perception and the first thing that pops up when you search for it. Yet I see it as a natural experience. Each and every person, here and everywhere, can share a story where they had to bear with the condition for a long time. And therefore, this created barriers for them in the society. No matter if it was chronic stress, hearing loss, or maybe depression, they still weren't able to function normally. Yet, what most of us don't really realize is how beneficial these experiences can be. Let me give you an example. In many Siberian, North American cultures, there's this thing where individuals with epilepsy, mental issues, and other disabilities were seen to be having shaman sanitation. Well, basically, this is something meant that you could foresee future, heal others, and other stuff. And therefore, these people were highly respected and were actually in the elite positions in the government. Cool. Well, nowadays, many disabled people also get these benefits, such as being exempt from mandatory military training, certain taxes, restrictions, and stuff. And even something that is called minor nowadays, which apparently is not, obviously, such as mental disabilities, are getting treated the same way as other disabilities. So technically, no matter what your disability is or was, you're still going to be treated better in civilized societies. However, it all really depends on their attitude towards the disabled, because different people perceive things differently. But how come most just do not see it at the other side of being disabled? Well, it all about the perspective. You must have guessed by now that the reason I speak all of this because I'm disabled myself. Well, I had scoliosis since I was 4, and since then, hospitals hit too close to home. I had to bear with many medical appointments, with some surgeries and stuff, and I actually had one when I was 12. And so after that surgery, as a result, I've developed depression. And it was really a late diagnosis because I've always been described as having a really stern face. And the cherry on top, I've been also diagnosed with high-functioning autism just a year ago, which may or may not justify the wicked allegations. Sure. But what I believe is that these conditions did not necessarily limit my abilities, but rather gave me superpowers. Well, if I'm really interested in something, I could sit and do research about it for hours. Maybe I can also jump into a conversation and say, hey, so that was the topic you talked about, and I really liked it. I'm going to jump in and start talking about it for 20 hours. And I also noted the smallest details that is, and I can do something as absurd as cracking every joint in my body with one motion. Well, this is simply something that an average person is not really capable of, so that's why I call this a benefit. But overall, the disabled people, they themselves might say actually fine, but from the perspective of a non-disabled person, they might not. However, it all depends on one thing. I'm not really visibly disabled. And this is incredibly important. Apparently, people who are visibly disabled are getting criticized on more often. Now, people who are visibly disabled are getting hated on more often. Biologically, we don't like it when people are different from others. Therefore, they respond with hate without never being able to admit this. And hating on other people based on any prejudice is called isms. And they generally refer to the collection of doctrines, theories, or anything regarding any environmental social problems, such as racism, sexism, and here I touch more on ableism, so the hatred towards the disabled, right? And in any case of any disabled person, ableism is not, ew, I hate the guy on the street, he be talking weird. No. It's something else. Let me give you one of the examples. So, in Scissoran, there was a man who cut a finger off from his left hand in order not to go to an army for 25 years. Well, he was the only walker in the family, and he was right-handed, so I guess it was a small price to pay not to go to an army for a quarter of the century, right? But his plan did not actually work, because the neighboring family snitched on him to the authorities. Apparently, their child has been taken away to an army, and they did not want this man's plan to slide. And mind you, this all happened in the 8th century, and has only came out of the archives in 2022. And I believe this instance outlines my talk perfectly. One could give up a part of their body in order not to go to an army, while somebody else could prevent this stuff enough to decide upon act from sliding. You must say that, hey, come on, it was 25 years. This could be justified. Well, I say no. What if I say that the same things happen nowadays with an average time of going to the military for 1 year? There are people in this world who put their fingers up faucets with liquid nitrogen to crack them off. There are people who blind themselves with glue. There are people who ask their friends to get a little hammer and break their heads off. And this is only just to get this little benefit. So this is not only the example of ableism, but also a hypocrisy. How can one get weird looks from just not looking the same and then be copied? Well, there are also other examples of that. Let's say social media, right? Everybody looked at these TikTok trends or anything, any post with the people faking Tourette syndrome. Like they're having tics to add some uniqueness to their videos, gain more followers and stuff. Moreover, I've conducted a research around people in my school to ask about their attitudes toward the disabled, and I would really love to ask you some of the questions from there. It's just going to be 3 questions, I promise. But the thing is, the only way to answer is to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, you say yes. If you don't, you say no. That's it. All right. So let's go with the question 1, shall we? So if you were to have a child with a chronic disease, would you still raise them? For instance, yeah, did everybody get the question? Oh, okay, fine. No, okay, I see a lot of hands here. Good. Okay, let's go for the second question. Would you make your child disabled in order to get tax benefits? For example, if you break a leg of your child in order to get, I guess, 50% off in shopping or anything, would you? Oh, wow, I don't see any hands. Interesting. Okay, and let's go for the third question. Do you like being around people? Do you like people in general? These are the same questions. Ah, okay, now I see the hands. Good. Well, this is just a part of the questionnaire I conducted at my school. And the thing is that most people answered like, yeah, disabled people are actually people and their experiences matter. But the thing is, something that I really noticed is how these people answered the questions. I picked up that these people were laughing every time they were given a question. And so, obviously because questions were not funny, but because they could not put all their seriousness into these questions. And I've also observed something like this today. There were some people who were laughing at these questions. That's how you know you're a hypocrite. All right. So, how does social entrepreneurship have to do with all of this? Come on. I'm not even finished yet. I'm starting my topic, you see? Just starting. So, social entrepreneurship is a practice-driven business that aims to solve any environmental, social, or cultural problems. And there are some times where businesses can make disabled people look good or just fair as everybody else, or even superior. So for the first instance, let's take Medicaid, right? So Medicaid is a federal state company in United States, that provides millions of Americans with free healthcare, including disabled people, pregnant women, and other people. And so their advertisements always depict people doing really, really kind stuff. And so we all know this consumer behaviorism. So whenever a person looks at the ads and sees somebody doing good things, they're like, oh, okay, that's nice, so that person is nice. So that's how we can kind of manipulate people into thinking that disabled people are good. There are also instances where they can be seen as even superior. You must have heard of something that is called the community cafes or special needs cafes. So basically, these are businesses that only have the disabled working, and so there's nobody else there. So that's how it is superior, right? So the only people working in this cafe are the disabled. So everybody else are excluded. So this is not really representing anything. This is showing off. You show off that your kind deserves to be in some place while others don't. We really need to learn how to live with others and not exclude them. Well, here I have a message for all of you. All in all, we have to read between the lines. We have to really put our minds into people. Whenever we have this type of problem, usually society has everything to solve it. But we only have to be willing to do that. And if we do, we'll be unstoppable. But before big corporations start to think about it, there's something we can still do. We can start to notice things. We can start to be fair. Let's make things we care about feel seen. And let's make people we care about feel loved. Thank you.